Nara hit the pavement before she even understood why she was running. The night air in Eastbridge burned cold against her face, and her heels slapped the wet road as if trying to outrun the very heart beating inside her chest. Cars hissed past. Neon signs smeared themselves across the puddles. Her phone vibrated in her trembling hand again, his name lighting up the screen like a threat. Joon. She shoved it into her coat pocket and kept running. Moments earlier, she had stood outside his office door, the same door she had walked through 1,000 times as his assistant. Same polished wood. Same dim hallway. Same feeling of being so close to him and yet miles away. She had come to tell him she was pregnant, that their one night together had changed her entire life, that she didn't want anything from him but the truth. But then she heard it, his voice, cold, detached. End the arrangement immediately. I'm done with it. Her whole world dropped out from under her feet. She didn't know he was talking about a criminal partnership. She only knew her name wasn't an arrangement. At least she prayed it was. But the tone, the finality, it carved something sharp through her ribs. And so she ran. Now, darting through the alley, she pressed a hand against her stomach. 6 weeks. She didn't even know how to breathe properly. Didn't know how to survive the feeling that everything she had dreamed about with him had never existed at all. A taxi screeched to a stop as she waved it down, chest heaving. Airport, she rasped, sliding into the back seat. Please just drive. The driver gave a puzzled glance at her tear-streaked face, but said nothing. Eastbridge blurred behind her as the cab accelerated into the night. She didn't look back. Not once. 3 years earlier, before all of this, Nara had walked into Minjun's life as nothing more than an assistant with a crisp resume and a calm smile. His coldness had been infamous. Rumors said he'd watched a man get shot in front of him without blinking, that he'd survived an ambush that left 3 dead and him emotionally numb. But she learned him in ways no one else seemed able to. How he clenched his jaw when trying not to feel. How he pressed his thumb to the glass rim of a drink when trying to ground himself. How he avoided mirrors. How he treated silence like armor. She learned, too, the versions of him he didn't know she saw. Like when he brought her ginger tea during a flu spell without saying a word. Or when he paid her brother's school fees quietly, anonymously. Or when he stayed at the office late but didn't work, just sat staring at the city as if it had taken something from him he couldn't ask back. She fell in love slowly, painfully, and completely. And then came the night everything changed. It was 2 a.m. when he called, his voice hoarse, almost unrecognizable. Nara, please, I need you to bring the ledger, just come. She arrived within 15 minutes, breathless, hair uncombed, heart racing. He answered the door shirtless, bruised, and clearly drunk, not in the sloppy, reckless way others drank, but in the quiet, desperate way someone drinks to forget. He leaned against the wall to steady himself. You came, he whispered, as if he didn't expect it. She stepped closer without thinking. You're hurt. Not where it matters. They talked for hours. His past spilled out in cracked pieces. For the first time, he let someone see the ruin inside him, and she held it gently, carefully. By dawn, one thing had become impossible to ignore. He trusted her in ways he trusted no one. The intimacy that followed wasn't planned. It wasn't rational. It wasn't even spoken into existence. It simply happened, raw and trembling, 2 broken people reaching for warmth in a city built on ice. But the morning washed all of that away. Minjun woke a stranger again, emotionless, sharp, armored. He barely met her eyes. We have a meeting at 9. Don't be late. Nara left his penthouse, feeling like she had dreamed a lie. The taxi jerked to a stop at the terminal, snapping Nara back to the present. She paid quickly and hurried inside, wiping her face with the sleeve of her coat. Her hands shook violently, but she forced them to steady long enough to buy the next flight out of the country. Rivercrest. Her mother's home. Somewhere he would never think to look. She walked through the terminal with her luggage dragging behind her, heart crumbling with every step. She kept waiting for him to appear, to call her name, to stop her, to explain. But the only thing that echoed through the cavernous airport was the boarding announcement. When she finally sat in her seat, buckling the belt around her trembling body, a hot tear rolled down her cheek. "I guess that's it," she whispered to the empty air beside her. Outside the window, Eastbridge glittered like a promise broken. She pressed a hand over her stomach as the plane began to taxi down the runway. "It's just us now," she murmured. "Just us." And as the aircraft lifted into the night sky, leaving behind the man she had loved silently for years, she told herself she wasn't breaking. Just bending. Just surviving. Just choosing herself. Weeks passed in Rivercrest. Nara hid her pregnancy from the world as long as she could, but her mother, Mama Ifoma, wasn't fooled. "Your eyes are swollen, your ankles are thick, and you're eating like someone carrying twins," Mama Ifoma said one afternoon, arms folded. "Child, tell me what burden you've brought into my house." Nara broke, completely. Tears soaked her mother's shoulder as the truth finally spilled out. Her mother held her gently, whispering, "You will not break here, not under my roof." The pregnancy was brutal. Complications, bed rest, fear, loneliness, no Minjun, no closure. Only memories that stabbed her each time she closed her eyes. And then the contractions came. 14 excruciating hours later, she held 3 tiny miracles in her arms, Kyra, Zeno, and Tebai. Little fists, little breaths, little lives bound to her heart forever. She cried, not from pain but from the overwhelming truth. These children were hers. And his. And he would never know. Years passed. Her life shifted into a rhythm, chaotic, loud, exhausting, tender. She bathed them, fed them, soothed nightmares, fought off fevers, worked 2 remote jobs, slept too little, loved too fiercely. Her brother Kobai helped when he could. Mama Ifoma was her rock. Every time she nearly picked up her phone to call Minjun, she stopped herself. He didn't want the arrangement. He didn't want her. So she built a life without him. But fate has a way of folding in on itself. And the day she rushed her feverish, wheezing son into Rivercrest General Hospital, she had no idea that when she stepped out of the examination room, Ray Minjun would be standing at the end of the hallway, staring at her like a man who had seen a ghost and found his soul at the same time. Her breath vanished. His face drained of color. Then he whispered her name. A sound so broken, so disbelieving, it cracked the world open. Nara. Nara froze, her body rooted to the spot as if the ground itself had decided to betray her. Minjun's eyes were the same, piercing and unreadable, but there was something else now. A flicker, a spark of something that had been buried under years of cold calculation and violence. "K. Minjun," she stammered, the name tasting strange and dangerous on her tongue. What are you doing here?" He stepped closer, every motion careful, restrained, as if one wrong move would shatter the fragile thread of this reunion. I came as soon as I found out. I had to see you." His voice cracked on the last word, betraying a vulnerability he had never allowed anyone to witness. The triplets stirred in her arms. Tebai, the quiet one, buried his face against her shoulder. Zeno wriggled, restless, and Kyra clutched the blanket as if it could shield him from the shock. Nara adjusted her grip on them, keeping her voice calm, even as her heart slammed against her ribs. You shouldn't have come," she said finally, though the words felt hollow even to her. "I had to," he said. "I had to know if you're safe, if they're safe." His gaze swept over the children, softening in a way Nara had only ever imagined in dreams. For a moment, the world narrowed down to the 3 of them. Then Nara's voice rose with an edge she hadn't intended. "Safe. You don't even know what you've done to me. Do you have any idea what it's been like? Raising 3 children alone while wondering if the man who made this possible even cared." Minjun flinched, but he didn't step back. I thought you were gone. You left without a word. I searched, Nara. I couldn't find you." "You didn't know what I was thinking. You didn't know what I heard," she shouted, the fear and hurt spilling out. "You were cold, detached, and I believed it." "I was cold, detached," he repeated, almost as if saying it aloud could exorcise the ghosts of the past. Do you know why? Because I couldn't feel. For 5 years I felt nothing, not a thing. And then you came along. You made me feel everything, and it scared me more than any gun or knife ever could. The words hit her like a physical blow. He had been terrified, not heartless. He had been broken. She took a shaky breath, trying to make sense of it all. You're telling me the truth now, she said quietly. I swear it, he said. I never wanted to hurt you. I just didn't know how to love again. Nara looked down at the triplets. Kyra's small fingers had curled around her sweater. Zeno's eyes were wide, watching this stranger in awe. Tebai clutched her arm, unsure of what to feel. Her heart ached. Could she trust him? Could she forgive him, not for her sake, but for theirs? Joon extended a hand, tentative. I don't expect anything from you, Nara. I only want to be here for them, for you. Let me try. The fight inside her, anger, fear, love, protectiveness, waged a battle that made her stomach twist. Finally, with a deep exhale, she nodded slightly. 2 weeks, that's all you get. He smiled, small but genuine. And for the first time in years, Nara allowed herself to imagine a different future. One where he was not just the man who haunted her dreams, but someone who could actually help shoulder the weight of their lives. The next days were a blur of emotion, chaos, and tentative bonding. Joon learned the rhythms of the household awkwardly. He tripped over toys, spilled tea, and read the wrong bedtime stories, but the children laughed anyway. Kyra, serious and observant, watched him closely, calculating his intentions. Zeno, exuberant and playful, tested him endlessly. And Tebai, the quiet, perceptive one, slowly warmed to his presence, a small hand eventually reaching for his during a lullaby. Nara observed him from a distance, heart in constant conflict. There were moments of softness she hadn't expected, Joon comforting Tebai during a fever, reading Kyra's homework instructions patiently, laughing at Zeno's clumsy antics. Each moment chipped away at the wall she had built around herself, forcing her to acknowledge the man behind the legend, the man who had terrified her, and yet now made her pulse quicken. But the shadow of the past and the unknown threat loomed over them. Every time Joon answered his phone with a tense expression, her heart jumped. She had learned the world he inhabited was dangerous. Every glance over his shoulder, every sudden quiet in the room reminded her that their fragile peace was temporary. One rainy afternoon, as the children napped, Nara and Joon sat across from each other at the small kitchen table. The air was thick with unsaid words. I want to come back with you, he finally said, voice low. To Seoul, to give us a chance, but only if you want it too, only if you can trust me again. Nara stared at him, her fingers tightening around her cup. The weight of the decision pressed down on her chest. I can't do it lightly, she said. I've protected them all these years. I won't let anyone hurt them again, not even you. I understand, he said, nodding. And I'll earn your trust. I'll earn it every single day if I have to. A long silence followed. Then she said quietly, We'll go together, but only if it's equal. You don't get to control us, not the children, not me. We're equals. He smiled, a slow, small curve that made something inside her unclench. Equals, he echoed. Weeks passed. Nara watched him grow into his role as protector, caregiver, and dare she admit it, father. She saw him smile genuinely at the children, laughing as Zeno performed a clumsy dance, scolding him softly but warmly when he spilled paint across the floor. Kyra rolled her eyes at Joon's mistakes, but the small smirk she allowed him showed trust. Tebai, once withdrawn, now sought out his presence, leaning against him as he read a storybook aloud. But happiness in their lives was never safe for long. Late one night, as the family settled into the quiet of the house, a sudden spark caught Nara's attention. Flames licked the corner of the living room's ceiling. Electrical wires had shorted. Panic shot through her as she grabbed the children, Joon reacting instantly. Get the kids, he shouted, his voice decisive and commanding, a reminder of the dangerous world he lived in. They escaped through the back door, coughing and sputtering in the rain, soaked and trembling. Mama Ifoma had already called the fire department. Nara clutched the triplets tightly, heart pounding, thinking of how close they had come to losing everything. As the fire died down, Min-joon stood beside her, rain mixing with smoke on his face. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small, sealed envelope that had been tossed onto the porch during the chaos. Nara opened it with trembling hands. Inside were photographs of her, the children, and her mother. Threatening words scrawled across the paper in jagged handwriting. "Enjoy them while you can. You won't hide forever. DV." Min-joon's face darkened. The calm, measured mask returned, but this time with a palpable edge of fury. "He's here," he said, voice low and deadly. "Damon Voss. He's been watching us and he won't stop." Nara's hand trembled as she held Kyra, Zeno, and Tebai closer. For the first time, fear washed over her in a wave so intense it nearly paralyzed her. But she glanced at Min-joon, and in his gaze, she saw promise, protection, and unwavering determination. Together, they stood in the rain, soaked and shivering, united against the threat looming over them. And in that moment, she realized something vital. They were stronger together than apart. Min-joon's hand found hers, gripping tightly. "We survive this," he said. "Together." Nara nodded, swallowing her fear. Together. And as the night deepened around them, they understood that the real battle was just beginning, but they would face it side by side. If you're captivated by Nara and Min-joon's journey, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to follow every twist, turn, and emotional beat of their story. Morning came with the sound of rain dripping from the roof, a rhythmic reminder that life, no matter how turbulent, always continued. Nara sat at the small kitchen table, Kyra and Zeno slowly waking, Tebai nestled against her shoulder, the envelope from last night still clutched in her hand. Her chest ached with a cocktail of exhaustion, fear, and the tiny, stubborn ember of hope she couldn't quite extinguish. Min-joon paced the room, his shoes slapping against the worn floorboards. His face, usually unreadable, was taut with concentration and barely restrained fury. "We need a plan," he said. "Voss doesn't strike randomly. He's calculating, patient. He'll wait for us to slip." Nara met his gaze, silently agreeing. Trust had not come easily. It hadn't arrived fully yet, but necessity demanded collaboration. "Then we stay alert. No one leaves the house alone. We move together and we move fast." He nodded, his hand brushing briefly against hers. It was a touch neither of them needed to speak about, but it spoke volumes anyway. Two people, battered and broken, attempting to rebuild a life under pressure so immense it would have destroyed anyone else. The days that followed were a delicate dance between domestic normalcy and the ever-looming shadow of danger. Min-joon learned the nuances of their lives, the exact time Tebai needed his medication, how Kyra preferred her morning toast, the way Zeno demanded attention, but softened when spoken to gently. Each small victory strengthened their bond, each moment a thread weaving a fragile tapestry of trust. One afternoon, Nara was in the kitchen preparing lunch when a knock at the door startled her. She glanced at Min-joon, who stiffened instantly. "Don't open it," he whispered. She obeyed, retreating to the back room with the children. Minutes later, he opened the door himself. A delivery man, oblivious to the tension, handed him a small package. No note, no return address, just a plain, brown box. He set it down carefully on the table. Nara watched, curiosity and dread warring inside her. Min-joon pried it open, revealing a stack of photos. Candid shots of the children playing in the yard, Nara preparing meals, Mama Ifoma tending to the garden. His jaw tightened. "He's closer than we thought," Min-joon muttered. "Watching us every moment. This isn't intimidation. This is surveillance. He wants to know everything we do." Nara's heart hammered. "So, what do we do?" Min-joon's eyes, sharp and unyielding, met hers. "We fight, but not recklessly. Every move is calculated, every decision deliberate. We can't let him win." Her chest tightened as the realization set in. Their tentative peace, the bonding, the laughter, they had been a momentary illusion. Danger lurked in the shadows, and the only way to survive was together. Evening fell, and with it came quiet reflection. The children slept, exhausted from their day. Nara and Minjun sat in the dimly lit living room, a single lamp casting long shadows across the walls. "I don't know if I can do this," she admitted quietly. "I've protected them alone for so long, and now, to have you here, fighting beside me, it's terrifying." "I understand," he said, reaching for her hand again. "I'm not here to replace what you've done for them. I'm here to help, to protect, to make sure nothing ever threatens them again." Her throat tightened. "I want to trust you," she whispered, "but it's not easy." "It never will be," he replied. "Trust is built day by day, moment by moment, and I'm ready to spend every one proving that I'm not the man you feared. I'm the man who will stand beside you, no matter what." They sat in silence after that, the weight of unspoken promises settling around them. For the first time in years, Nara allowed herself a flicker of hope, not a reckless hope, but a cautious one. The following morning, the plan for moving back to Eastbridge was set in motion. Minjun had arranged a secure transport, a safe route, and contingency plans should Damon Voss attempt to intercept them. Nara packed meticulously, ensuring the children had everything they would need. As they prepared to leave Rivercrest, Minjun knelt to the children's level. "Listen carefully. We're going on a trip. It's safe, but you must stay close to your mother and me at all times. Understood?" Kyra nodded solemnly. Zeno bounced on his heels, excitement barely contained. Tebai, quiet as ever, simply held onto Minjun's hand, eyes wide but trusting. "Good," he said, standing and glancing at Nara. "Together." They left Rivercrest behind, the rain washing away the remnants of the fire and the lingering fear. But even as the cityscape faded, the knowledge remained. Damon Voss was out there, watching, waiting. Weeks passed as they settled into a temporary safe house in Eastbridge. Minjun balanced his underground dealings cautiously, ensuring Damon's spies could not reach them. Nara adjusted to life with him in proximity, discovering both the challenges and joys of co-parenting with a man who had once terrified her. One evening, after the children had gone to bed, Nara and Minjun stood on the balcony, city lights stretching endlessly before them. "Do you ever wonder if we'll really be safe?" she asked, voice low. "All the time," he admitted. "But we can't let fear rule us. We live for them, for us, for every stolen moment of peace we can claim." She leaned into him, and he wrapped an arm around her, feeling the solid weight of her trust growing ever so slowly. "I don't want to live in fear anymore," she whispered. "You won't," he promised, "not while I'm here." The next day, Damon Voss made his first direct move. A car sped past the safe house, slowing suspiciously, then peeling away into the night. Minjun's instincts flared instantly, and he grabbed Nara. "He's testing us," he said, "seeing how alert we are, preparing for the strike he actually wants to make." Nara's heart raced. "What do we do?" "We do exactly what we've been doing, stay one step ahead. No mistakes, protect the children, protect each other." As night fell again, Nara watched Minjun patrol the perimeter, a quiet sentinel against a storm that threatened to engulf them. The children slept safely inside, unaware of the danger pressing in from every direction. And in that moment, she realized something powerful. The fear that had once kept her apart from him could now, strangely, bind them together. It was no longer just about survival. It was about family, love, and the hard-won knowledge that together they could face anything. She squeezed his hand as he returned to her side. "Thank you," she said simply. "For what?" "For staying, for being here, for not giving up." Minjun's eyes softened. "We're just getting started." And as the city lights flickered, Nara felt the first genuine spark of hope in years. They were not invincible. They were not free from danger, but they were together, and together they were strong. If you're enjoying Nara and Minjun's journey, make sure to like this video, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to follow every twist of their story. It's only getting more intense from here. The following days were a tense dance of vigilance and routine. Every delivery, every phone call, every unfamiliar knock made Nara flinch. The triplets, blissfully unaware of the threat looming over them, went about their lives with innocent energy that felt like both a balm and a burden. Minjun watched them carefully, adjusting to the role of father in ways that were both natural and painfully hard-earned. One evening, as the children played in the small living room, a sharp knock shattered the fragile calm. Nara's heart jumped. Minjun was instantly alert, his gaze scanning every corner of the room. "Stay inside," he commanded softly. "Do not answer." But curiosity, that insistent whisper, made Nara inch toward the door. Minjun's hand caught hers, firm, unyielding. "Now," he said. The envelope was left on the doorstep this time, not even a foot inside. Minjun tore it open with practiced hands. Inside were more photographs, close-ups of the triplets' faces, of Nara's mother tending to the garden, and a single note in jagged letters. "You cannot hide. One mistake and they're mine. DV." Minjun's jaw tightened. "This ends," he muttered, the edge of his voice razor-sharp. "He's testing us, trying to intimidate, but he underestimates us. He underestimates me. He underestimates you." Nara swallowed hard, holding back the panic that threatened to rise. "We can't just wait," she said. "We have to do something." He looked at her, the storm in his eyes tempered with calm logic. "We strike carefully. We don't rush. One wrong move and it's over. But we will not hide. Not anymore." That night, after the triplets were asleep, Minjun explained the plan. Surveillance, careful monitoring, strategic moves in his underworld network, all to identify Damon Voss and ensure their safety. Nara listened, tense but resolute. Her fear was there, but so was the fierce protection she felt for her children and the man who had finally earned her trust. Weeks passed, and their bond deepened. Minjun and Nara learned to communicate with fewer words, reading each other in glances and gestures. Laughter returned in small doses, Zeno's chaotic energy forcing smiles even in moments of tension, Kyra's quiet wisdom lending perspective, Tebai's gentle presence offering calm. One afternoon, Nara and Minjun took a rare walk outside, the triplets safely at a friend's home for a playdate. The city sprawled before them, indifferent to their struggles. "I never imagined it could be like this," Nara admitted, leaning slightly on his shoulder. "Danger lurking, but still life, still moments like this." He took her hand. "Life doesn't wait for safety or comfort," he said. "It gives you these moments to hold on to, no matter the chaos around you, and we will hold on to them." She smiled faintly, letting herself believe it. A small flame of hope sparked, a fragile, precious thing, but real. The storm came faster than they expected. Damon Voss had gathered his forces, and his first strike was direct. A car pulled up near the safe house, armed men attempting a breach. Minjun had anticipated the attack. He moved with precision, ushering Nara and the children to the secure room, barricading the door while he confronted the threat. Gunfire cracked outside. The children huddled together, Nara's arms tight around them. She listened to Minjun's commanding voice, the precision in his movements, the calculated control he wielded like a weapon against chaos. Minutes felt like hours, but eventually silence fell. The threat was neutralized, but the world had shifted. Nara held the triplets closer, finally daring to breathe again. Minjun joined them, sweat and grime on his face, but alive. "We survived," he said simply, voice softening as he looked at her. "Together." "And we'll keep surviving," she whispered back, the weight of fear now tempered with a hardened determination. "No matter what." The days that followed were quiet, deceptively peaceful. Nara allowed herself to imagine a future, a life where they were free from fear, where Minjun's touch was a comfort, not a reminder of past wounds. She watched him with the children, the way his eyes softened when Kyra smiled at him, how he played with Zeno's relentless energy, the way Tebai finally laughed freely in his presence. Love was growing in the cracks of their lives, fragile but undeniable. And for the first time, Nara believed in the possibility of happiness, not perfect, but real. Then came the proposal. It was quiet, intimate, and without the grandeur of the world he ruled. Minjun knelt before her, holding a small ring, his gaze unwavering. "Come to Eastbridge with me. Marry me. Let me spend the rest of my life proving I deserve you." Tears blurred Nara's vision. She looked down at him, at the sincerity, the vulnerability, the man who had terrified her yet became her safe haven. "Yes," she whispered, "but as equals, not your assistant, not someone who owes you anything, equal partners." He smiled, relief and love flooding his face. "Equals," he echoed. Life didn't magically become perfect after that. Threats still lingered. Damon Voss remained a dangerous shadow. But for the first time, they faced it united. Joon and Nara, side by side with the children as their heartbeat, as their reason to fight. Every smile, every touch, every small victory was a defiance against fear. They had been broken, separated by misunderstanding and circumstance, but they had healed slowly, painfully, and beautifully. The love they shared was not easy. It was tested, challenged, and forged in fire. And now, as they prepared to return to Eastbridge permanently, they did so with eyes wide open, hearts full, and hands tightly clasped. Nara looked at Joon, at the children playing nearby, and finally allowed herself to believe in a future. One where danger existed, yes, but also laughter, warmth, and unbreakable bonds. One where love, no matter how battered or delayed, could survive. Joon's hand found hers. "Together," he said once more. "Together," she agreed. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with fire and gold, they stood as a family. A fragile, imperfect, unstoppable family, ready for whatever came next. If you've been captivated by Nara and Joon's story, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to follow every emotional twist, heart-pounding moment, and suspenseful turn of their journey. The next chapter promises even more drama, love, and high-stakes action you won't want to miss.